Alhamdulillah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah bless this gathering and give us the angelic presence inshallah and keep our hearts united. I inshallah will talk about a few things. One of them is about a hadith that is related from Sayyidina Umar. And there are many versions of this hadith. This is one particular one, but the meaning of this hadith is articulated in several different ways. The Prophet ﷺ said, سَيُصِيبُ أُمَّتِي فِي آخِرِ الزَّمَانِ بَلَاءٌ شَدِيدٌ لَا يَنْجُو مِنْهُ إِلَّا رَجُلٌ عَرَفَ دِينَهُ وَجَاهَدَ عَلَيْهِ بِقَلْبِهِ وَبِلِسَانِهِ فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي سَبَقَتْ لَهُ السَّوَابِقُ وَرَجُلٌ عَرَفَ دِينَ اللَّهِ فَصَدَقَ بِهِ. So the gist of this hadith is that there would be towards the latter time, as the difficulties of the end of time begin to manifest, and we're seeing these, and so we have to be aware of them, because we tend to forget sometimes that 1/4 of our religion, according to the hadith of Jibreel alayhi salam, are the signs of the latter days. This is 1/4 because the Jibreel alayhi salam asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam about Iman, about Islam, Iman and Ihsan, and then he asked him about the signs of the latter days. And at the end of the hadith, he asked Umar, "Atadri man as-sa'il?" Do you know who the questioner is? And he said, "Allahu wa rasuluhu a'lam." Allah and His Messenger know better. And he said, "Inna hadha Jibreel ataakum yu'allimukum deenukum." This is Jibreel who's come to teach you your religion. And so the ulama took from that there are these 4 dimensions to Islam. And each of these dimensions is important. And traditionally, the signs of the end of time were part of the religion to understand. Now we're living in a particularly difficult time in many areas of the Muslim world, and if people aren't aware of the difficulties and the tribulations that come with being in the world, sometimes this can affect their iman. So it's very important that we keep in our understanding, we keep this in mind and not forget this. The Prophet ﷺ said that there would be great difficulties. One of the things that he said, "Inna hadi ummah, or ummati ummatum marhuma." My ummah is a ummah, it's a community that has the mercy of God on it. It's a marhuma. And then he said, "Ju'ila adabuha fi dunyaha." The difficulties of this ummah, the chastisement of this ummah is in this world. Al-fitan, wal-balaya, wal-zalazil. Social strife, tribulations, calamities, and earthquakes. I mean, it's very interesting that when you hear about earthquakes generally in the Muslim world, our earthquakes are huge earthquakes. And they caught, a lot of people die in Muslim earthquake. If you look at, like here they have an earthquake and 2 people die. Seriously, we have earthquakes here, 2 people die. You have an earthquake in the Muslim world, and you're looking at literally unbelievable numbers sometimes. There's a divine aspect to this, that these are shuhada. Allah is taking them as shuhada, because the one who dies having his house fall on him, according to the hadith, is shaheed. So we have a different worldview, and we have to incorporate this worldview constantly in how we view things. That we believe that we live in a benevolent universe. We believe in Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. All of the Quranic surahs begin with Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. And so we believe that Allah is Rahmah, and that He sent His Prophet as a Rahmah. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. We sent you as a mercy to all the world. We believe He was a mercy to the Christians. He was a mercy to the Jews. He was a mercy to the trees and the forests and the animals. There is a story of Uqba bin Nafi' when he arrived to Qayrawan. And this is thabit in our tradition. It's considered a sound story. In fact, Muawiyah actually ascertained the truth of this by gathering several witnesses. It's considered a karama mutawatira. It is considered a miracle that's agreed upon, and we tend to forget that we believe in miracles. There's a lot of Muslims now that don't want to believe in miracles. They say, "Ya akhi, the miracle of Islam is the Quran." That's one miracle of Islam. But don't forget, there are many miracles, and miracles continue on. They continue on. Al-Karamat. وَاثْبِتًا لِلْأَوْلِيَا الْكَرَامَةِ وَمَنْ نَفَاهَا فَانْبِذًا كَلَامًا. This is what Imam al-Laqani says in the Jawhara, that we assert miracles, and anyone that rejects them, we reject him. The miracles of the awliya, the people that are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Uqba bin Nafi', they needed a forest to build Qayrawan, the city of Qayrawan in the great state of Tunis. He called out as loud as he could, أيها الحيوانات نحتاج إلى الغابة ونستأذنكم. He said, oh you animals, we need this forest for our needs here, and we're asking your permission. The people that were in his army said for 3 days they saw the animals migrating from that forest. People don't believe these things anymore. Wallahi, I believe them. I have no problem with them at all. Because these people were amazing people. And don't think Christianity spread without miracles, Judaism spread without miracles. All religions in their formative period have a lot of miracles. That's how they get people to follow them. And then once it gets established, it's established. But people believe in these things. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he said this, that there would be tribulations, and he mentioned these earthquakes, we have major earthquakes, we have major calamities in Syria right now. You look at what's happening in Syria, and I want to remind the Syrians, because every Syrian I meet now, they say to me, why isn't anybody doing anything? This is fard. Muslims have to do something. And they're 100% right. But I want to say to my Syrian brothers and sisters, welcome to a well-established club. You have membership in a club that has other members, and they have made the same claims and the same observances. You're in the club of the Darfurians. You're in the club of the Palestinians. You're in the club of the Kashmiris. You're in the club of the Chechenians. You're in the club of the Iraqis. Really, we have tribulations in many of these places, and people have been ignoring these things. This is why we get more and more tribulations, because we ignore these existing things and more come. We live in a world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised us that unless we are directed towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will do everything to redirect us. If we're not directed towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will redirect us towards Himself. Because this is why we were created. We were not created for 401k plans. You were not created for 56-inch television sets with Netflix to watch movies until you drop dead. You were not created, I'm serious, you were not created to play solitaire on your computer. That's not the purpose of all of this technology. You were created to know your Lord. You were created to study. You were created to delve deeply into the meaning of your very existence in whatever capacity you have, because different peoples have different capacities. So the Prophet ﷺ told us that there will be tribulations, and we should be aware of this. He told us that towards the end of time, you will see the people, the ala, ri'asha, yatatawaluna fil bunyan. He said there will be poor people who were the desert people, and they were poor, and they were taking care of goats and animals, and then they'll begin to build huge buildings. These are signs before your very eyes. We're seeing signs of our Prophet ﷺ. He told us that you will see the buildings of Mecca reach the mountaintops. The buildings of Mecca will reach the mountaintops. And this is happening in our lifetime. When I first went to Mecca, there were no buildings even close to the tops of the mountains of Mecca. And now it's filled with buildings that are beginning to reach the mountaintops. I was on one of the tallest mountains in Mecca, and you can see the clock tower now surpasses the mountains. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, he said, إِذَا رَأَيْتُمْ مَكَّةَ بُعِجَتْ كَضَائِمًا. If you see Mecca, if you see its mountains with holes pierced through them, this is what it means. بُعِجَتْ كَضَائِمًا وَيَتَسَاوَى بُنْيَانُهَا رُؤُوسَ جِبَالِهَا.
and you see the buildings reach or in a riwayah ta'lu, they will actually surpass the mountaintops. And then he said, فَقَدْ أَظَلَّتَ السَّاعَةُ. It means that the sa'a has cast its shadow. Imam As-Suyuti says in this, هي عبارة عن دنو الساعة. It means that the hour is near, it's coming close. But if you took that literally, and in hadith tradition, in usuli tradition, asul al-kalam al-haqiqa, that if the Prophet says something, you should always interpret it literally, unless there's a reason to go to a metaphorical interpretation. Now we have the clock tower casting a shadow over the Kaaba. So the clock tower, what do they call it in Saudi Arabia? As-sa'a. لَقَدْ أَظَلَّتَ السَّاعَةُ. You could take it literally, the clock has cast its shadow over the Kaaba.